Hello to Facebook world. Um, I've gotten several questions over the years um, about the different levels that Design Edge has available in it, and what the differences are, and uh, what you get for your next $998 upgrade. Because really, that's pretty much the price of uh, any of your upgrades. Height control is a two-step process, so it gets to be 998 times 2, so it's 1996. But what I want to do today is to start with just go through um, what changes as you add upgrades, features to Design Edge. And before I jump into that, I want to make it clear that if you have or have had an older version of the software, 3.11 and older, and you upgrade to Design Edge, as it stands currently, you would get some of the upgrades automatically. So you're not going from 3.11 that did a lot of these things already and losing features. You're going to get advanced machine control, advanced height control, assuming you have the hardware to support it, and I'll talk about that in a minute, and advanced design. So you get those, I'll call it 4 upgrades because height control is 2. So going from 3.11 to Design Edge, you get all of the advanced control, design, and height features, as well as an extra seat. Because 3.11 could be installed on more than one device. And the Design Edge cannot. It has to be by the seat, is the only way that it works. So let's dig on in and look at basic machine control. I'm going to start here because that's what you're going to have if you bought a GoTorch. Then the only thing you're going to have is basic machine control. It doesn't come with any design. And so when you look at your menus, you can import with all of the same files that anybody else can. But that's all you can do. So if you draw a cut path, then you'll want to be importing it as a cut path, because you don't even have a convert to cut path option. So if you import a DXF and you have bought a GoTorch and haven't bought any of the design software at all, let's see, there's some text. So when you import that, you see that they're closed paths, but there's no way to make it into a cut path. The only way you can do that as a GoTorch owner with no software upgrades whatsoever is to pull that in with the import as cut path checked, and then you get cut paths that you can then cut. So when you go to your settings with basic machine control, this is what your screen is going to look like. And let me kick back over here to the actual list. So it adds in the menu to move home, and that is not anywhere. That doesn't mean automatically move home. That just means you can go up here and click move home. But seeing that it's not there tells me that they're probably wrong. The move home doesn't show up until advanced machine control. So this list is wrong. It does not add move home. It does add the rapid travel setting, and it gives you the cutting motion settings for a speed. I don't know that that's right either. Let's see. Oh yeah, no, you can pause before cutting. So You can set your cut speed, you can set your rapid travel speed. And for those of you that have seen my screen before or have advanced, you'll notice it's missing acceleration. So you cannot set that with basic machine control. Let's see, then you can set your Z-axis speed and your force. If you have an old DHC table and you've not done any upgrade on the hardware, then you won't have a force setting. They'll just have speed. And you'll have cutter location adjustment and your time delay for the time to mark a point and the time to pierce a path. And all that's explained in other videos about settings. But this is all you've got with basic machine control. And so let me drag this over here. Let's see. So when you add advanced machine control for $9.98, this is a question that gets asked a whole lot because it's really not explained many places. But advanced machine control adds your acceleration settings. So now I can go into Design Edge, and when I look at that screen, I can set my rapid travel acceleration. I can set the corner acceleration for when it's cutting. I can tell it to slow down on holes below and curves below a certain diameter and have it speed up when it crosses the curve. And here I can have it actually, when it's done cutting the paths that I've had it cutting, have it move home when it's done. It adds the indexing feature, which lets you increase the layout of the table and have cut paths that span across multiple sheets so that you can slide your sheet and do indexing. It adds this center moving torch on the screen, which is a trip to watch, but really pointless. And then it adds the ability to do a wiggle pierce or a moving pierce, if you want to call it whichever. And most cutters, including Hypertherm, do not recommend that. You do not need a wiggle pierce, and so that's a function that is probably not ever going to be used. And it also adds the time to continue cutting at the end of the path. And it's worth noting here that the advanced machine control also adds the cutting signal box, the wait for signal before moving. So without that, the machine doesn't pay any attention to the voltage sensing wires in the harness going to the torch. It doesn't care when the torch fires. It doesn't care when it's not firing. So it can't give you any error that it lost the torch signal while it was cutting. If your plasma cutter gets turned off or the air compressor is not on, it'll just keep running through the path, and you'll have no idea where you stopped. And with this checked, it will tell you. It'll stop and tell you, and it'll also wait. So on the pierce, time to pierce, if you don't have either at least basic height control or advanced machine control, you will not have this cutting signal box, and you'll have to add time into the pierce box, the time to pierce, to allow for the pre-purge on the Hypertherm for it to work. So that creates trouble. So that is from basic to advanced. And you'll notice it did one other thing when I added the advanced machine control, and that is I get a whole new tab up here called configurations. And this is where you can save your settings as different named files, and you can go and load them, either all or some. So if I just wanted to load one or two things, I could push one and I could hold control and pick the things that I wanted to load, and it would ignore these others. Or I can just click and drag and select them all. Or you can pick a little section that way. But that way you can load part of a configuration if you don't want to load everything. But advanced machine control gives you the ability to save. You can have as many of these over here as you want. And it lets you save all of your settings as a different file name that you can reload later. So if you have a setting for instance, this one's for 14 gauge, 45 amp fine cut mild steel, I might have the same thing for stainless steel with that amperage and consumable, or different thicknesses or different consumables. So you can have all of your presets there. All right, let's switch her off here and go back to basic machine control. And I've added basic height control. So I took my machine control back to basic, put my height control on basic. I didn't even have a height control tab before. So to cut with no height control, you've got to move the thing to a height that you want to cut at and push start. And whatever height the Z-axis is sitting at, that's where it cuts. So when you add basic height control, you get the ability to, yes, exactly, Scott. I have one set up for what do you call the thing? The little drag diamond SureScribe that I use for marking locations of weld studs on the back of letters that I cut out. And so I can just, out on the shop table, I can just load the engraving configuration, push the button and go. And then when I do the switch back to cut it, I just put the right consumables in, turn the torch on, and load that configuration and tell it to go. Let's see. So on basic height control, you essentially have everything except the ohmic sensing and the material errors that go with it, and then the advanced options that you can change. But if you look back on this machine control, it added this cutting signal box, just like it did when I moved it up to advanced. So either or, you don't have to have both, but either one of those, either advanced machine control or basic height control, will get you that wait for cutting signal box, which will let that pierce time be set correctly to just what it really takes to pierce the metal, and not taking into account any pre-purge crap. So with basic height control, I explained all these settings elsewhere, but if you've got stuff that's grayed out that you can't change, it's probably because you don't have options enabled. If you don't have it set to raise and lower between the cuts, then it doesn't need any reference. So if you don't have the use torch height control checked, it's not using the arc voltage. So when you check that, those things will come into play. Let's see, let's look back at that. Piece. So that's where we can set all of our pieces of information that have to do with the actual height control, because now we're concerned about the Z shift. Now we're concerned about the arc voltage shift and the auto zero of that on the next cut. So the automatic setting, which I've explained probably at length elsewhere. Let's see. So these, like I said, basic height control gives you the ability to now use height control and not just have it be at a set height. You can set your pierce height. You can set the rapid travel height. You can zero the Z shift to the top of the plate, is what that means. So you could run the torch down until it touches the metal, and then open this and click this zero box, and it will zero out the torch. And then you could use it from that location, or you could have it actually over travel and stall out on the material to determine where the top of it is. And I explained the same process for setting the arc voltage shift works for basic as it does advanced. So let's never that. And let me kick it back up here now to advanced machine, advanced height. And when we do that, it's going to add the button for Z jogging adjust cut height, and it's going to add the sense material to 0. So that's our ohmic sensing. It's going to add those boxes for material sensing errors. Since it's now using that ohmic sensor, we can have it stop if there is a contact on rapid travel. If it hits a tip up, it will stop and not tear everything up. And then also have it retract if it cuts. And it also adds all of these lovely digital height control settings that you can go in and mess with and change. And set it up that you'd need to change these things if you wanted to cut something like corrugated barn tin. So that's just the ability to change those things. All these things were set in the background, but now you have the ability to change them. And then it gives you the ability to auto zero the Z shift on the next cut. Does that with the ohmic sensing. It also adds this ever so very important box, which is to disable height control. And if you have advanced machine control that is slowing down the cut in tight spots based on acceleration, then this is very important because it lets you set a number that when the cutter slows down, it will disable that height control. So looking at the setting screen now, with advanced height control, we have a lot more options. This is that Z jogging adjust the cut height. You can sense the material and you can have it give you those warnings. You can uncheck this and muddle about with these settings. And you do want to put something in here. So that's the big difference between advanced height and basic height. It adds this disable height control box that I find to be very important, and the ohmic sensing that goes a whole lot faster and establishes that pierce height much more reliably. So through all of this process, we have started with design software. We started with nothing. Now let's look at basic design and see how that works. I don't even know that that's listed on this particular document I have. So we'll have to go through that manually. Let me turn that off. So we don't even have a design setting box when we have design turned off. So I want to get that turned on for us. And here's our settings that we have that we can change in basic design. We can have it show the grate points, or we can have it show the grid. We don't have to look at those stupid grate points now. We can change that to a grid that we can design on. I prefer a 1-inch grid with 4 snap points. We can let it do the auto save, and we can put in a distance for it to link paths. And that's that I've explained other places too, but that just jumps things together when they don't join up. And when you go up to the tools, you'll notice that dimension is not on this list. So you just don't have that one. And let's see, you can do text. You can do a lot with editing, but you do not have fit to path. So two of the main things that I'm aware of off the top of my head that are not available in basic design that are in advanced is just that, the dimension tool and fit to path. I think everything else is there for design. You do not have the ability to show solid closed paths. So you're stuck with looking at this being a solid path. So if you cut that out, that's going to be a solid piece. And if you had this, you know, if you tried to cut that, when you convert that to a cut path, it's not going to convert this middle one because that's an island out in the middle. And it's a little harder to see that without advanced design because you cannot turn that on, nor can you show wide cut paths. Okay, you can still do the show grid with the black check mark, so you can still scroll through that until you get it so that it'll show grid everywhere. Let's see. But the next big step up is to go on up to advanced design. And when you do that, you get a whole lot more stuff. Now you can tell it to show solid closed paths and show wide cut paths. You can also tell it to turn off the table edge now if you want to. So first, to show solid paths, now you can see why it didn't convert that circle. But you can have it turn off the table edge so that it doesn't bother you with that. You can have it expand the grid and then have it, and then it goes everywhere with no concern for where the table's at. Let's see. That's the same, but now we can go in and change our screen colors. So that's a feature of advanced design. I can tell it that I want the background to be white instead of black, for instance, and it'll change that. That'll still be purple. Selected will still be green. You know, my grid points are there, but you can barely see them, so I need to change the color of those. But you can go in and change all of your screen colors to whatever you like. As I tell people in class, if you like this the way you have it and you've fixed all of your screen colors, then you need to go and save that as a configuration if you have advanced machine, or you need to write down the colors, because when you click this use standard, it puts it back and there's no way to get what you had back. It adds this undo and redo depth setting. I always leave it factory, so that doesn't really help me, but it does let you increase the amount that you require for its number of steps you can do to undo. It lets you adjust your node precision. Both of those things I usually use as standard unless I'm doing design for my laser. Since it adds the dimension tool, it also adds these parameters for you to set the text, the font, height, and decimal places for your dimension tool. Excuse me. It adds this delete overlapping segments so that if you had multiple paths on top of each other, those infamous Plasma Spider files, you can actually add a number in here, very small, and it'll delete paths that are overlapped. And it lets you set the precision and turn off finding arctic smoothing. So I leave that factory. So again, not big help, but adds that option with advanced design. And so you can see that now we have a fit to path option. So if I had my text, I don't even know what the thing is for that. So if I had text that I wanted to put in there, I could Control V, fit it to the path, have it be perspective, and it would fit that text. So, and you can do, it doesn't have to be text, but you do have now the fit to path option in advanced design. So that's really the explanation of all the basic design and advanced design upgrades, machine control and height control. Like I said, the biggest question is usually for advanced machine control, what on earth does it do? And why do I need to spend $1,000 on it? And the answer is really, it gives you fine control over your acceleration, which gives you much better cuts when you're cutting thin gauge material. And you need to be cutting faster, but you need to slow down in tight spots. So it's great for that. If you're cutting 1/2-inch plate all day, you don't really probably need it. But it's great for that. And probably that's easily worth half the value, and the other half can easily be said that it is worth that to be able to save your different configurations. So that's all I've got there. Now I do have the 3D upgrade, but that's a whole nother deal to explain. Plus, to be quite honest, it's nice in what it does is let you import paths that have 3D properties, but the ability of Design Edge to create good 3D tool paths for things like routing is just not there. So I use another program to create the tool paths, and then I import 3D paths as cut paths and run them. So I don't know that what I would have to say about that would be very helpful to convince you it's worth it. But if you're going to do routing, serious routing of detailed designs, then I use like Vectric VCarve, and you still have to have the 3D upgrade in Design Edge to import those paths. They have nesting available that I'm just not familiar with. I don't have it because I bought it before they integrated it into their own software. And so the one that I have sucks. And so I'm going to talk to them and see if I can't do something about it, about upgrading to that in the near future so that I can show you guys more about it. But I have seen people use it, and it is very valuable, and it works great for nesting small parts in your sheets. And you can even take a sheet that you've already cut parts out of, and it will nest and add those pieces to that. So you can keep track of individual sheets that you've used already partially, and you can come back to those and cut the rest of them later. Let's see. That's about it. There is customizable size, and you have to have that to be able to change the physical size of your table. So if you had a 4x4 and you wanted to expand it to 4x8, or if you had a Go Torch and you wanted to make it a 5x10, whatever you wanted to do, if you're going to make a change to the physical dimension abilities of the machine, you have to have that. I have an extended Z-axis travel kit that I bought the parts for from John Derby, and in order for me to take full advantage of that, I have to buy the customizable size to be able to tell it that my Z travel is now capable of 6 inches instead of 2. So one of these days I'll talk myself into that and get that part put on. They have metric units available for $1,000, which I think is asinine, stupid. I don't know. I don't even know. It lets you work in inches or millimeters, or I think even radians. But I got nothing as to why it would even be worth it. So not $998. I can either multiply by 2.54 or by 0.393701 and do the same thing with a calculator, and you can do that in the scale tool and have it done just as easily. So I can draw something in inches and then scale it to a margin of 0.393701, and all of a sudden it's in millimeters. So got nothing on that. And that's all I can think of. So I see there's a couple of you that have hung with it. So that's the good wrap up on levels. So if you have any questions about levels or any other question at all, I'm happy to take it or go make myself a cup of coffee, whichever you'd prefer. Hey, Mike, you kind of got the tail end of it. You can always go back and catch the beginning later. It'll be on the site. But I was just telling these guys if there was any questions, I'm happy to take them. I guess I don't know much, but I like to know what I know. So I'm happy to answer that age-old question. What's been eating at you all day long? What have you tried to do that hasn't worked? What have you done that has worked that you wonder if you're doing it the easiest way? Nothing? Well, if that's all the trouble I can cause, I'll let you get back to work on this beautiful Monday. I wanted to make a video that showed those design levels because people just, it's hard to tell what they are without any explanation or a very vague explanation. So if there aren't any questions, I will leave it with you for the day. Thanks for stopping by, and I hope this helps a lot of people determine which upgrades are best for them and what they want to buy.